Building scalable generative AI or agentic AI solution is mandatory in order to get a job as a generative AI engineer or an agentic AI engineer. So for that, MLOps and LLM Ops are essential. Come on, have a look over the screen. Now, this MLOps and LLM Ops comprises of three things. One is called as continuous integration. Second one is called continuous deployment, and the third one is called continuous training. This is for MLOps. And when it comes to LLM Ops, there may not be training, but there going to be a continuous integration and a continuous deployment. So what is that? So now very simple. Let's go back. Before we are getting into this, even here you have three divisions. So Dockers, Jenkins, and AWS. Why we have all the three? So let's go back and let's explore. Now I'm getting into this is my VS Code and where exactly I have all my coding. For example, if you take this, this is where you are able to find my code. Now here, if I go to app, I got my backend files, I got my API files, I got my exception handling files, logger files, I got config files. So basically as an ML engineer or as a generative AI engineer, we will be start writing the code here in the VS Code, or it can be cursor, any particular code editor. And this code, so like in order to run, what we do is in simple, if I'm able to run Streamlit run, or if I just execute Python run main.py, what exactly going to happen? It's going to trigger it in my particular system. It's going to execute in my system. So the system has a particular configuration. This has a RAM, this has a particular hard disk, operating system. It is able to start executing it. Now, in order to run the same application, but I want to share it to people across the globe, then this particular application or this particular code, in order to run anywhere, in order to share it with anyone, what I need to do, I want to deploy it on an infrastructure. So where exactly that infrastructure is located? That infrastructure is located on AWS, or we are able to call it as a cloud platform. So it's going to be on AWS. It can be on Azure, or it going to be on GCP, or it can be on Vercel, anywhere you are able to deploy it. So the purpose is what? In order to run this particular code, you need to have an operating system. So now my current operating system is Windows, and I have a Python standard version, and inside this Python version I installed all the libraries. So now all the libraries need to be installed. Now in the similar line, so that if I'm able to run a command, now it is able to run. If anyone are trying to interact with it based on my system RAM, based on the memory of the system, it is able to start performing. The performance of my app is dependent on the configuration of my laptop. We call it as infrastructure. That is available where exactly you are able to access it through cloud, AWS, or you are able to access it through your, what is that, through GCP or through Azure. So every time whenever you are writing a code, now what I basically do, I want to go back, I want to create an account in AWS. I will be creating an EC2 instances, or I will be creating a SageMaker account, and I start running my algorithms or my machine learning algorithms at SageMaker. Every time I create those services, every time I go back to AWS and I create EC2 instances, and every time I use Elastic Kubernetes services, all of this, I create an IAM role and all of that. So now that is a painful task. That is basically what called as operations. Now, the machine learning algorithms which you created, or generative AI applications which you created, or agentic AI applications you created, so they need to keep on getting updated. For example, take LLM. Now, it may not run, means like very good for all the time. So we keep on updating the prompts. We keep on updating the data set. As we are updating, the customers who are using our agentic chatbot or generative AI chatbot, so it need to get updated. That is the process. So every time I make a change to the code, every time I want to create this stuff in the cloud, I want to go back to AWS, I want to set up that account. It's a very painful task. And the next thing is, so now while I'm making the code changes, what is happening whenever you are making a change to your code? So now your app is your app need to get updated. So that is the actual process, means your code is getting better, your app also need to get better. That's where your customers are able to start using it. Now at any point of time, I want to go back to my previous version. I don't want the current version of my app, I want a previous version of my app. I want to start tracking my particular code. For that reason, what you do, you try to connect your VS code. So now what I'm doing, I'm connecting my VS code. This VS code, I want to connect it with my GitHub. So now every change I'm making, for example, let me go back to GitHub. So now this is the one. Let's go back to GitHub. Now, what is the purpose of GitHub? It is called as SCM, Source Code Management. Now, all my code is in VS Code. Now, the versions of my code, I want to track it. For that, I'm connecting my VS Code with GitHub. You're able to see if I'm clicking on this particular repo, now you're able to see this particular code, whichever I have it. Now, if I click on this mentor underscore hyphen Kant, you're able to see various comments I made. It means like what is meant by comment? The changes I made. So the changes I'm able to track it. So these are all the various changes. So at any point of time, I'm able to go back to the particular change. I'm able to go back and I'm able to access. So in this on Feb, this is the kind of code I have it. I'm able to every time go back to my previous coding. So this is called what? SCM, Source Code Management, or the purpose of GitHub is for version controlling, which is very, very important. Now, your code, very exactly all your code as a ML engineer or as a generative AI engineer, you are developing your entire code exactly at your VS Code. And after writing the code, you are connecting this code to GitHub. So every change you are making going to be recorded. At any point of time you want to go back to your previous code, you are able to go back with the help of GitHub if you are not connecting it. Perfect. Well, and the third step, now it is very important. Now, what exactly we are doing? Now, this particular, all the code I have it, now currently I'm running maybe 3.13 Python version, or I may be running some other Python version. So now what going to happen is, now the goal is, if I'm taking and running it on a cloud, AWS or Azure or GCP, so now the Python versions may mismatch. So what exactly? The Python versions, whatever the Python I have, the Python in AWS may mismatch, and it going to start giving me the errors. For example, what I'm doing, I'm trying to share this code with someone. They want to run it after 10 days, or maybe after 10 months, or maybe after 5 years. The code may not run. The reason why? The Python version changes. They install the latest Python version after 5 years. The library versions changes. All of this changes. And what happens? Your app may not run after 5 years. It's going to start not responding. So that is the limitation. So what we do, we start developing a Docker image. If you see here, there is a Docker file. What is the purpose of this Docker file? Now, whenever you are writing now you created all the application I recorded it in the Docker file. So now what Python version to install, so all of this setup we made it. Now what going to happen whenever you want to run the particular code, or in order to run this entire application on AWS or Azure, if I just simply run the Docker file, it is able to install Python, it is able to install dependency libraries, everything, and it is able to start running my application successfully. So that is the power of Docker image. So we call it as what? Containers. So now what is happening now? The same Docker file, once it created successfully, now you can run it anytime. You just run a Docker file, it's going to run successfully, so without any error. So that is the problem we are solving now. Docker is just your container or an image. Now, in order to run this container, you need to have a Kubernetes services. So now what is the purpose of Kubernetes? Kubernetes has your compute power, CPUs and all of that. So now Docker is just a container. To run this container, you want to have a service. That is your Kubernetes. So Kubernetes helps to run this Docker images in simple lines. That's the reason now you take this Docker images, you execute it in AWS Kubernetes services, or that's the reason you, whenever you're seeing Docker, you see Kubernetes or Kubeflow and all of that. So Kubernetes services are very, very essential. Now, I hope the things are clear. Now, all your code is in VS Code, and the changes you are making in a VS Code, you are tracking it in GitHub. In simple, we call it as source code management or version controlling. And now, one more thing. So, like whether it is MLOps and LLMOps, the same process, but few things changes. In MLOps, continuous training come into the picture. So now what we are doing, we are not just having, we are not taking a pre-trained model like LLMs do. We take a base model from Google or from OpenAI. We try to take a base models. But in MLOps, what we do, we train the model. So we train the model with a different algorithm, with a different features, with a different data set. So now even we want to track the machine learning model as well. So like now today, which model is running, after 10 days, which model is running. You want to track even your machine learning model. So for that reason, we are using ML flow. So ML flow is used to track your machine learning experiments. What exactly we are doing? We are using ML flow to track the machine learning experiments. Now, even this training part also to be automated. What does it mean by that? Now, you have a Docker image. In order to trigger this entire application. You have one more Docker image in order to trigger the training process. Whenever you run the Docker image, it is executing the entire training process. It's going to fetch the new data. It's going to pick the best algorithm based on the settings you made it. It's going to pick the features you set it, and it's going to come up with the best model. And that model is pushed into ML flow, and that model is deployed. So this is what we are basically doing. Now you have one more Docker image. What is the purpose of one more Docker image? In order to automate the training process, even here also you'll be seeing in the documentation I made it. Now this is the steps. So you got your code, and whenever you are it going to trigger the Docker build image. What is the purpose of Docker build image? To training. In order to train your model, in order to execute your model, we are having Docker build image, or this the purpose is what? To automate your training. And you got one more Docker image. The purpose of one more Docker image is in order to serve it, in order for the sake of inference image, in order to run the entire application successfully. You have one more Docker image. So these are the files. Means like you got your SRC folder in the coding, you got your training file, evaluate file, pre-processing file, predict file. You got your app file, requirement file, Docker files, Jenkins files, config files, test data, all of these files you have it. This is your VS Code setup. And now you know two Docker images, one for running your application, one for training your model. So like continuous training. When a model is not performing well, so the model is not performing well, how you know that? With the help of monitoring. You need to continuously monitor it. So I hope this is clear. And the next one going to be, now you got all your code here. Now you need to have one more. We call it as your Jenkins file. You are able to see Jenkins file. What exactly Jenkins file? Now the purpose of a Jenkins file is it's an orchestration file. Now you got your code. Well, you got your Docker images in order to run it on a cloud to make sure your setup is running successfully without any errors or without any bugs. Now the purpose of a Jenkins file is that is an actual automation file. What is the purpose of Jenkins file? So now Jenkins is an orchestration file. Now in Jenkins, what you do is you are connecting everything in Jenkins. So you are connecting AWS in Jenkins, you are connecting GitHub in Jenkins, you are connecting unit testing in Jenkins, everything. So continuous integration is code validation also you're doing. You're continuously extracting the code and you're testing the code. So that's what we are doing, continuous integration. And that code you are trying to deploy it. So where you are deploying? Onto the cloud platforms, AWS, Azure. Now the process, you are trying to define it in your Jenkins file. That process, what you're doing, you are defining that in your Jenkins file. So when you are running this Jenkins file, what is happening? It's going to trigger the entire automation. It's going to trigger entire automation. Now, if you see this, now this is my WSL, and here if I say Docker start Jenkins BEPEC, if I say Docker start Jenkins BEPEC, now the Jenkins is triggered. Now I can go back to my browser. I'm able to give the path. I'm able to give the URL. This is my Jenkins path 172.18. And here I'm able to give my login details. Now I'm into my Jenkins. Now here inside the Jenkins, what I have done, I connected GitHub with Jenkins. I integrated AWS with Jenkins. I integrated unit testing with Jenkins. Everything I integrated here. And now what I do, when I'm able to just go back, if this is the project name, and once all the connections are made, if I just simply click on build now, you're able to see this option called build now. If you're able to click on that option build now, it is able to run the entire deployment. So we call it as operations. Now, basically, if this automation is not done with the help of a Jenkins, well, what happens? Every time you open AWS, you create your folders, everything you set up, and you run the applications. I don't want to do it. I make a change. I just run the git commands. And when I'm making that git commands, what is happening? It is able to automatically store the data into GitHub. And once a new data comes into GitHub, either when a new data comes in the GitHub, if you want, you can trigger the pipeline automatically, or so you can just come back and you can simply say build now, so that it's going to trigger the entire pipeline, so that you don't need to do this entire deployment every time. The same thing with MLOps. So what you are doing with MLOps, you are keep on, as an ML engineer, you are keep on making your application better and better. So the same thing with DevOps as well. As a web developer, you keep on making your application better and better. You push it to the GitHub, and from there, when a new date code comes in, either you can deploy it so that the customers can start doing it, or you can automatically schedule when a new code comes in, automatically it is getting deployed. So now this is what the importance of DevOps in the software development. The same DevOps when you're applying to machine learning, what you're doing now, everything you're connecting in Jenkins orchestration file, you click a build now in Jenkins, everything is getting orchestrated, everything is getting automated. The same thing is getting repeated in data engineering as well. So you build the pipelines, you click on your ADF factory or you run Airflow, so the entire pipeline going to be automated. So the purpose of Jenkins is to orchestrate it or to automate it. So now as a developer, once this MLOps is created for a project, I don't need to go back every time, I don't need to develop it. But as a data scientist, as an ML engineer or as an AI engineer, I will be spending my entire day on this particular, what is that, the coding itself. So MLOps or LLM Ops going to be for a project, we spend like couple of days or couple of weeks on setting up that entire pipeline. Once it is done, once it is successfully running, everything we do changes is at our code level at a VS Code. So now that's a simple idea behind why MLOps is very, very important. What is MLOps, LLMOps? I hope a good understanding about it. Now, in case if you have any questions, please share it in the comments so that I am able to go through that and I'm able to give answers around it. I hope it's clear. So MLOps and LLMOps are very, very essential. So the difference is what? In machine learning, you are training your model. Whereas in LLM Ops, you are not training. What you are doing? You are trying to take a base model. So now here you can see I'm taking a base model with the help of environment variables. I'm taking a base model. So like at that base model, I'm integrating it in my applications or in my back. Then saying a backend. Backend is basically a fast API. Then we can say the actual agentic application where we are trying to build it. There we are connecting with lang chains, lang graphs, and all of that. I hope it's clear. Now in ML training, in MLOps, what we do? You collect the data, you train it, you pre-process it, you evaluate it, you need to pick the best model, you need to feature engineer it, you want to do explainable AI, that is for monitoring purpose, for judgment purpose. So this is how it happens. Now MLOps and LLM, the difference is what? In ML, you are training, the script changes, the procedure is same. In LLMOps, the script is changing. So there may not be training, you take a base model and you try to do. That's it. So you can call MLOps or you can call AIOps. Anything you're able to call it. I hope it's clear. And this documentation, these are the kind of services we use. If I want to store the data in cloud S3, we use S3, which is a data lake. So like, or if you go to Azure, it's a blob storage. So ECR, now you have Docker images that every time the Docker image is getting updated, right? So now that updated Docker image need to be deployed in a Docker container. So sorry, ECS or EKS, Elastic Container Services or Elastic Kubernetes Services. So now it's going to be ECR, Container Registry, to store all my Docker images of training and inferences. SageMaker, it's like your Jupyter notebook to train the model to serve your model. So EC2, it's a compute. In order to run, now I have my laptop. It's a virtual machine. It's a virtual computer. ECS, Kubernetes services, in order to run your Docker images. CloudWatch for monitoring. So now in order to communicate with each and every service, you want to define them at IAM role. So for security. So GitHub, code commit for the sake of source code, we get source code management and secrets manager credentials. That's it. These are the kind of services we use in AWS for MLOps and for LLMOps. That's it. I hope you got a clear understanding. In case if you like it, please share your views in the comments. Thank you.